This is the Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Your word is sharper than any two-edged sword, and it cuts deep into my heart.
The Word to Stand On for Life is a radio ministry of Calvary Chapel in San Antonio. A live call-in show here to help you answer your questions about the Bible and how to apply the Word to your daily life. For more information on Calvary Chapel, visit our website, calvarysa.com. Get your Bible questions ready and call in now to 210-340-9585. It's The Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Welcome to the program. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you're not as cold as I am. My teeth have just stopped chattering. Thanks for tuning in on this very, very cold winter day here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm Pastor Ron Arbaugh from Calvary Chapel in San Antonio, Texas, and this is the Word to Stand On for Life, not just the regular show. This is the date-day edition, which means Paula is live here in studio with us. It's a program dedicated to taking your phone calls and answering your questions, Bible questions, life questions today, relationship questions, whatever you want to ask Paula. All you have to do is pick up the phone and dial 210-340-9585. If you're outside the local San Antonio area, you can call toll-free at 877-630-KSLR. That's 630-5757. You can email your question by emailing questions at calvarysa.com, or you can use our free Calvary Chapel of San Antonio mobile app. And as always, if you are driving in your car, the safest way to call with those wet streets out there today especially is to use the free KSLR mobile app. Hit the Call Now banner at the top of the screen, and you will be connected directly to our studio producer. Paula, thanks for hanging out with me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So what's up?
Well, before we get started, I just want to remind the ladies, especially, that our Mark studies will resume Monday night. Linda McMillan will be teaching Mark 6, the first part of it, where she'll be teaching that a prophet has no honor in his own hometown or in his family or community, you know. So we shouldn't be surprised either when that happens to us. And then that Jesus is going to send out his 12. And so that's Monday. And then our women's retreat registration, woo-woo, women's retreat, it's coming, begins on Sunday.
Didn't you just have one?
No, we didn't. The pastor's wives did in October, but no, it's been a whole year. It'll be a whole year, yeah, in a week. It'll be a whole year in a week, Pastor Ron. So the retreat theme is John 21:15. Do you truly love me more than these? And I was talking to Sandy McIntosh just via text.
And Sandy's our guest speaker.
That's the guest speaker. Mm-hmm. She's very experienced in this thing. And she said, when I first gave her the theme verse, she goes, oh, no. This is going to be rough, you know, kind of a thing. And so the other day when we were speaking, she was saying that she was struggling with the theme. And I was like, well, she said, you got any, examples or, yeah. So I was trying to give her, I was like, who am I to be giving you some instruction? But it's talking about what are some of these. Do you love me more than these? You know, your career, yourself, your finances, your spouse, you know.
Your plans, your hopes, your dreams. I think this would be a wide open.
I think so, too. And then when I sent it to her, she goes, oh, good. And then this is what she said, you should teach it. I was like, no, you're coming. So it's coming. Do you truly love me more than these? And, you know, we had the women's retreat planning committee and all that stuff on Monday. And the ladies they're always just, they're so excited with all their ideas. And so the registration committee will be the first ones up. And they're waiting for people to sign up and let's go, kind of a thing.
Why don't you give us the dates?
Oh, yes. March 13 to 15, 2025, of course. And it'll be at Camp Buckner. So,
which is 90 minutes from here, about.
Yeah, about. Mm-hmm. I think it's a much easier drive than Alto Frio. I think it's just right straight up 281 or something like that. Yeah. So, it's coming, and we're excited. I'm nervous and excited, and and some of the other Calvary chapels, and this year because Calvary Chapel San Antonio is kind of getting kind of large, and I almost always send out a full, like, I don't know how many of the other Calvary chapels I invite. Well, this year I just did some that are local, but some of the ones that are out of town, some that have never been, have heard that we want to come. So they've invited themselves, So
pay their fee and you can go.
Yeah, there you go. And all I do is invite the guest speaker and come up with the theme. And then one of the other ladies said, Mama Paula, you do the room assignments. I was like, yes, I do. I forgot that part. But yeah, so that's coming too. So if when you register, they'll let you know. You can request a roommate. But I'm letting you know, and I let the ladies know who are at the meeting. We all crammed up in the 5th and 6th grade class. That the roommate you get is the roommate you get, and we tell the kids, you get what you get, and don't throw a fit. So I'll try the best I can to make your accommodations match up. But if they don't, those are the perfect match-up accommodations. So we're gonna have fun. It's going to be fun. Do you love me? Do you truly love me more than these? And then he went on to say to Peter, do you truly love me? And kind of getting down into Peter's heart. Like, Peter's like, oh, Jesus, come on, man, do you love me? If you just love me a little bit, I can work with that. But let's be honest in our assessment of our relationship.
So we're going to be preparing for that. It's going to be a busy time for us. I just was reminded today, had an email from the pastor in Paris, Texas. You and I are doing a marriage retreat or marriage conference.
No, it's a retreat because it's an overnight. But conference, I think it's just like a one-day thing, right?
I don't know. I just know we're going to Paris.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds real romantic, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was there a few months ago. I don't know how long. I was there in the summertime.
You and Louie and Chris.
Yeah, they drove me up. Mm-hmm. And we're not driving this time, I don't think.
Okay.
We're flying up through, I don't know where through, but we're doing a marriage conference in Paris, Texas, February. I think it's in the middle, 15th to 17th or something like that.
I think it's 14, 15, like Valentine's Day.
Oh.
You think?
No, probably not.
Oh, okay. No, it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's in the middle of February, but we'll have more information on it, and those are always difficult. There's always so much spiritual warfare.
Yeah,
and
I love you, right? I'm gonna tell you right now. Because the enemy brings back all the bad memories like it was yesterday. And in the night when
first thing they want us to do, start off that night with our testimony. And so even in the night, I get the nightmares of you were who you were back then. And me too, only I'm older and wiser. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to knock you out. My nightmares. But yeah, the spiritual warfare is real. One of the things I had to warn Pastor Justin about was that we get super direct in these things. Yeah. It's Jesus coming soon. Mm-hmm. There's no time to mess around. People need to get serious about their commitment to Him first, their commitment to one another, their commitment to their wedding vows. Mm-hmm. And so we get really, really serious and very, very direct in these things. And sometimes churches aren't quite ready for that kind of direct.
Mm-hmm. There, some I think come thinking we're going to have fun games and you're going to get to know me a little bit better and stuff like that. Well, we don't really play games, huh?
No games when we do the cover. I just figure somebody's going to pay money, and they're going to take time over their weekend. Then we need to give them their money's worth.
Yeah. Do you really want your marriage fixed, or you just want to go and play games and say, we went on a date, and when you went back to the hotel room, you did, watch regular TV, and that was it. And, no. We're telling them, read Bible together. Pray together. Let your kids see that the Bible is Dad and Mom's favorite book, and that we don't just talk the talk. We're going to walk the walk, and we send the people home with information and the ability to change why they felt like they had to come to the marriage retreat in the first place.
Paul says to fathers not to exasperate their children. Another translation says not to embitter. Mm-hmm. And I think the single most exasperating or embittering thing that can happen to a child in a home is when mom and dad are talking Jesus but not living him.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to them about that. We'll do a Q&A session.
Yeah.
That's always effective. This time I think they want us to do an individual session, you with the women and me with the men, which is also fine.
Yeah.
But the idea is for people to go home changed, so that the kids can say, I wish I'd have thought to have Greta and Nigel on the program today, because God changed them.
Yeah.
And their marriage was changed as a result. Their children have been changed as a result.
We got more Thursdays before then.
Yeah, and we get a lot of times. Maybe we should invite them to go with us. That'd be great.
Okay.
Great thing. So
they listen. Greta, you already heard the invitation. Talk to Nigel. We'll make arrangements.
But if you, if you're going to do it, you just either get on or get off with the Lord.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus said. They're ready to be hot or cold.
Yeah.
One or the other, not lukewarm.
Yeah.
And the lukewarmness makes him sick. So that's kind of how direct we are at these things. Yeah. And usually when I get done after the weekend, or when I get done talking to the men individually, the pastor or somebody will come and say, are you always that blunt? Pretty much.
You're going to take your bulletproof vest this time?
Hey, I'm 100 years old. I don't have time to waste.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's coming up in February in Paris, Texas. And you know what? They have an Eiffel Tower in Paris, Texas.
I heard. You told me all about it.
It looks like an erector set. Remember when we were kids?
Yeah.
Now, the kids today don't know anything about erector sets.
Yeah.
But we had an erector set. It looks like an erector set. Mm-hmm. And on the top of it, there's a cowboy hat. So that's it.
Is it straight up, or is it kind of leaning too?
No, that's a leaning tower piece.
Yeah, Eiffel Tower. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
It's straight.
It's straight.
Uh-huh.
But it
But you know what it looks like?
What?
It looks like a broken electricity tower or phone tower or something.
Okay.
We got those big ones around here. And it looks like a small version of that. So
And I heard that everything is bigger in Texas, so what's up? We should have been bigger than the
just
original.
be glad I'm taking you to Paris finally.
No, I'm not all that thrilled. with the dinky Eiffel Tower. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to brag. I took my wife to Paris for the weekend.
Yeah.
You're so romantic.
Yeah.
It was Paris, Texas.
We'll have fun.
What's on your heart today, Paula?
Okay, so I was laughing, because now that we're talking about marriage stuff, I was laughing so hard with Cindy yesterday. When did Mary and Joseph get married? What was their wedding like? And what? They didn't have a wedding. The closest thing they had to a reception was when the three wise men came, or however many came, and gave them some gifts. There was no cake.
That was 2 years later.
Yeah. That's why I was thinking, what wedding? But, and at lunch we were talking about, our Western, that's how we think, Yeah,
there's a huge difference in people between in Jesus' day and in the time that we live in. Mm-hmm. And it's not an improvement.
No.
Cindy mentioned yesterday in her question that girls grow up from the time they're little, dreaming about their wedding day, and it's got to be this is going to be right and this is going to be right. And of course, we've done so many weddings that I couldn't talk this one lady out of a outdoor wedding at noon in July. In the summer in Texas.
In Texas, yeah.
And I said, your people are going to pass out, and there's be people that can't take it.
Yeah, you are inviting your family and friends from the East Coast. Yeah. They were white.
Yeah, they're actually from the Midwest. And
oh my gosh!
And one
they look like just Kleenex.
Yeah, we actually had to cut it short because one of the groomsmen was fainting.
Yeah.
And the bride and the groom are pouring sweat in their thing. But no, she always dreamed about an outdoor wedding. That's what she wanted.
Yeah.
But here's the difference. We dream about our wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
In Jesus' day, women dreamed about their marriage.
Yeah.
It was completely different. We're so event-centered and event-focused. It's all about, this has to be perfect, this has to be perfect. And we spend these obscene amounts of money on weddings. And we don't really do much thinking about our marriage.
Yeah.
The wedding, the ceremony, the show we're putting on, the beautiful, expensive dress that we want to wear. That was not the case in Jesus' day. Mm-hmm. So Mary would have been praying about her marriage and honoring God in her marriage and being a godly wife, and Joseph a godly husband. They would have wanted to dedicate their marriage to serving the Lord. Now, in their case, it was different because she was actually pregnant with God.
Yeah.
But pregnant by God and pregnant with God.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's just different. And I don't think it's better. You know, it's what happens when you go home from the reception and forward. Mm-hmm. That matters. Two become one. The marriage is consummated. Yeah. That was the thrill. You know, in Jesus' day, a Jewish wedding, the party would last for 7 days.
7 days.
But the bride and groom would go into their tent on day one of the ceremony of the feast. Mm-hmm. And that's when they would consummate the marriage, and that's when their wedding began. Yeah. Their life together as husband and wife began. And I just think we're so focused on the event that we lose out. We have usually the bride, not always and only, but people get really stressed out, and there's all kinds of details, and it gets really frustrating. That's not the way to approach a wedding that God has arranged. Yeah. But we do it, and I'm not going to change anybody's mind. So
I know. It's okay. You know, when we got married, Ron, you remember, it was very humble, you know. Neither one of us were saved at the time, but we knew, you know. And we said, called our family. We found this. It was in Panorama City. What was the name of the church? You remember? Because we didn't go to church. We just found a church where a guy would marry us. He didn't know us or anything.
Made some calls and asked around. Mm-hmm. Back then, there were no cell phones, so you had to go through the yellow pages to find out. Yeah. I actually think it was John MacArthur's church, which is in
Panorama City. Wow.
It's a big church, and they married us for $50. Yeah. We
at noon that day, we called some family, your family.
Yeah, we decided in the morning, let's get married. You were pregnant.
Yeah.
We knew it was the right thing to do, even though we'd been living wrong.
Yeah.
We just decided, okay, this is it. We're going to get married. And you were already morning sick.
Yes, I sure was.
And so we called my mom and my brother and sister, and they brought a few people. I think we had 6 people.
Yeah. In a huge church.
In this huge church at the wedding. But it was just a quick ceremony. Yeah. And we went home to life. And we've been together for 54 years.
Yeah. Yeah. How cool, right?
52 of them married. September 16th.
Yep. 1972. Yeah. And it's about the marriage. It's not the wedding. And the sad thing is, in even in the Christian marriages, about 50% of them get divorced, just like the regular world. All that money down the drain. So, yeah.
Until death do us part.
Yeah, we lie.
Until Jesus comes for us. And we just don't take our vows seriously.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to be telling the people, you know, hey, look, love is action. Love's a decision. You're not going to always feel lovey-dovey unless you're married to Ron. Yeah. And he's already spoken.
That's right. He's taken.
Yeah, he's taken. But yeah, and yeah, you got to work at it.
You know, I'm mindful
you
of Paul.
You and I are so different. So we have to really work at it.
Yeah. I'm mindful thinking about this this morning. A wedding that we did here. There's a man in the church, and what everybody thought was his wife. They've got teenage kids and grown older kids, and week after week after week, he sat in the church
for years.
Yeah, for being convicted, and finally the Spirit of God grabbed his heart, and he came into me and he said, "Pastor Ron, I have a confession to make." And he said, "My wife isn't really my wife. We're not married," and they've been together for decades, and he just said, I know I have to do it right now. He was embarrassed. He was a very private person, and he was embarrassed. And he said, "Here's what I'd like to do. Will you marry us? But just in the office. We'll go get a license, and you just marry us in the office. And I don't want anybody in there because I don't want anybody to know. I don't want the attention. And I've repented before the Lord, and she's thrilled." And then when he showed up to get married, his son was with him,
and
his brother. And you could just see the work that God had done in his life. And it was like this Christian from Pilgrim's Progress. This big burden was removed from his back, and suddenly Jesus was carrying it, and they're doing really, really well, and just a neat thing. So one of the things that I can't figure out, and I look at women in particular who are in relationships with people, sexual relationships, or living with people that they're not married to. And I just, why are you in church? What makes you think a Christian can live like this? And they say, well, we can't do this because, we get benefits or I mean, they've got a million reasons. It's just not the right time. And eventually we're going to get married. And God knows that. What God knows is that we're sinning. And we're rebelling against God. That we're actually actively opposing God. And yet we're going to church. We're saying the right things. And we expect, not just we want, but we expect his blessing in our lives. And there's no way he can do that. And one of the things that we tell people is you've got to put this relationship in a place where it's blessable by God. And just because it's no big deal to you, this is a very big deal to God. And I've looked at the women in the face with the man sitting there and said, why would you let him do this to you? And the answer is usually, I don't know. And they're so afraid of losing the relationship that they don't want to rock the boat. Jesus wants to rock some boats. And the other thing, and since we're on this, we've only got 4 minutes left in the half, but the same thing is true with lukewarm marriages. When Christians settle for marriage that isn't passionate, and I don't mean just physically, but I include physicality. When Christians settle for a marriage that isn't governed by the Holy Spirit, it's grievous to God. It breaks his heart. And I just wonder why people are willing to settle. I guess it's the known difficulties better than the unknown. Maybe we just don't want to make sacrifices. Husbands, love your wives the way Christ loved the church, giving himself up for, if I give myself up for, well, who's going to take care of me? And we got to learn that God wants to bless you. And those relationships are just not blessable. When a relationship loses its physical passion, and I don't care if you're 20 or 120, the relationship is supposed to be intimate. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be playful and enjoyable. And to settle for less than that, it's just, we know what we feel like when our kids settle for less than what God wants for them. It breaks our heart. It breaks God's heart when we've just sort of decided, I just don't care about that anymore. God cares very much about it, and that's a relationship that needs to be nurtured. In the marriage.
Those kind of questions we get in the Q&A, and because you can't see, I usually get to read the questions before you hear them. Man, the last marriage conference we did, my heart was breaking. There's a couple of questions I wanted to say, who wrote this? Because I'm coming to slap somebody. Who wrote this? But we want. What would Jesus do? The bracelets. What would Jesus do? He just holds us. He holds us. He strokes our hair. He holds our hand. He tells us we're all beautiful. He's passionate, and that Romans 5:5 love of God shed abroad in our heart. He put that there. talking about the spiritual warfare from back in the day, I would be so disgusted and angry at you, Pastor Ron. You weren't Pastor Ron then, of course, but the Lord would always say, I love him so much. I love him so much. And, at first I was like, well, why? But he loves you so much. And he said, and Paula, you're not any better. I love you too, and I want to use you. And so in a marriage that's not passionate, one person is not willing to be used.
David said, I will not give that to the Lord which costs nothing. And a marriage costs sacrifice.
Yeah, it does.
And we need to accept that. Hey, we've got 30 minutes left in the Date Day Show. We'd love your questions, calls, or comments. 210-340-9585. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to the Word to Stand On for Life. We're taking your calls at 340-9585 or toll free 877-630-KSLR. Now, here's Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Welcome back to the second half of our Thursday Date Day edition of the Word to Stand On for Life. 210-340-9585 or toll free 877-630-KSLR. We would love your comments, questions, and or feedback. My crack research department here did a Google search. The church that we got married at was Panorama Presbyterian Church, 14021 Roscoe Boulevard in Panorama City, California. So, and he did that from pictures that were taken at the thing. Those are the pictures that came out of that little camera at the bottom, right?
Oh, yeah. Polaroid.
Yeah. Back when we were kids, you'd take a picture, you had to wait 2 weeks to get them.
If you had money to go get them out of Hawk.
Yeah. Paula, you got something else you want to comment on, then the rest of the show is yours. Do what you want.
Yeah, because I was saying, being married to you, I have learned so much. It wasn't about I needed to just forgive you and, that Jesus loves you and all that kind of stuff. No. Jesus loved me, and that's why he put you in my life. Remember, he said, this is the one for life? Yeah. For a while, I was like, this isn't working out as well as I thought it should.
You thought it was a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Yes. But, when the Lord said that you were going to be a pastor and he had told me ahead of time, I was like, oh, that's cool. What's a pastor do? Work one day a week kind of thing. Don't you think that? What's he going to do the rest of the time? But, yeah, no, I say this quite often. I'm really glad that I go to Calvary Chapel, San Antonio. So thank you so much you got a lot of patience too, because I'm a hot mess.
You should know more by now.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've said that plenty of times before, but you know better. Yeah, no, I really should be better. I'm thinking sometimes I apologize to the people. I'm your pastor's wife. You guys must have really been bad. So, but no, seriously, but thank you. He loves you. He loves me. And I really wanted to make sure to say that because, I'm grateful because you're a passionate person. I like that.
Oh, well.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway. Okay, Pastor Ron, there's no excuse for you not believing. That's what you said on Sunday. Romans 5, That's such a good study. I listened to it again yesterday. Because yesterday, I don't know, I woke up and it was just dreary and I didn't have time to go on my walk and it was just too cold. It was in the low 30s. I was like, what am I going to do, So people give me puzzles. I got some really nice puzzles and I haven't been putting puzzles together. So I bought a puzzle board and I threw a puzzle out. This is the hardest puzzle I think I've ever But I was listening to this Sunday study again. And it was
There's an example of something you said the first half hour. We are so different.
Yeah, we are very different. You would never think to put a puzzle together, right?
Buy it already made.
That's called a picture.
Yeah, just take a picture of it. Why would anybody tear it apart and then try to put it all back together?
No, it's torn apart. That's the thing. When you open the box, it's just pieces. And you have to put it back together. You have to put it together. Oh. No, it's not put it back together. That would be, dumb. But yeah, no.
Well, then it still makes more sense just to buy a picture.
It's a picture.
Yeah.
And you just put a frame on it.
Yeah.
And you're done. No.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But it's a beautiful puzzle. And I was having such a good time and just kind of resting my brain from, we had a lot of our family and friends are going through really difficult things. And I'm an empathetic person and a sympathetic person. And sometimes it just gets to me. And so I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to talk to you all day, and you're going to talk back, right? Yeah, he does. I have access. But I said, I'm going to do this puzzle much as I can. Just kind of, I told my friend, I texted one of my friends, I said, please pray for me. This is a deliberate distraction. And she said, ooh, fun. Because I showed her a picture of the
See, a puzzle's not fun.
I love it. When I was a kid, whenever I got sick, because both my parents worked, whenever I got sick, my mom would just set up a card table, some orange juice, some aspirin, and tell me when I was supposed to take them, baby aspirins, chicken noodle soup, and then I had my puzzles. I'll call you throughout the day, make sure you're all right. But I always had a puzzle. Puzzle was my friend. So I have a lot of patience in that area, so it was fun. So I was listening to this study again, and I was highlighting some of my notes, So God always comes through at the right time.
No wonder that puzzle's not done.
Yeah, it's hard, but I had to listen. And then the show came on, I had to make my notes. So that's a good thing. So I had a pretty good day. He was really trying to encourage the encourager. I have to get the encouragement, but there's some times when I need encouraging too. So it was the how much more study. So how much more, before I was saved, he loved me, but I just didn't know. But now that I am saved, how much more does he love me? So, but yeah, I wrote myself a note because God came at just the right time to the powerless, the feeble, or the sick. Weren't we all? But Paula, your sin is, and I underlined and circled, is awful, not was, is awful. Don't forget that ever. And ever is in big letters. Don't forget that ever. But don't ever forget that I love you. Yeah. So to hear that again, and I get to live with you because when I say stuff to you, you'll remind me. So I appreciate that.
And I said Sunday, to appreciate the how much mores. Mm-hmm. And Romans chapter 5, I call it the how much more chapter. Mm-hmm. To appreciate the how much mores, you've got to come to grips with your sin. You can't pretend you're okay. You can't pretend, well, I'm a good person. Mm-hmm. You've got to come to grips with and I said I'll make up a word, the awfulness of your sin. And we don't like to think about that. We think about other people's sin as being awful, but certainly we're not that bad, and we kind of expect God to grade on a curve. But the problem is we rip ourselves off from appreciating how much more of His love for us. And if I know God loved me with an infinite love when I was His enemy, how much more? Mm-hmm. How deeper, how richer is our relationship now? Mm-hmm. How much more passion is there in our walk? Jesus used the word abundant. I gave you life and life abundant. Mm-hmm. And that's the how much more of God. Yeah.
The other word you love is verdant.
I love that word. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's a good one.
It's an old English word. It means green. Yeah. But it's used to describe our love for God. It's a mature, ripe, much more love. Yeah.
It's like holding hands and skipping through the tulips. Yeah. It's me and Jesus. Jesus and me. He loves me and I love him. And oh, how happy we'll be for eternity. Oh, I just made that up. You hear that? I am funny, right?
If you're given the chance, he'll do it.
He loves me, and the reason he proved it. And when you said this, and I don't think I've ever heard you say this one before, when you talked about he became a man, the sacrifice himself. He didn't send somebody else. How much more is that? Go ahead. I think everybody should hear that.
No, if there are cults out there, Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons primarily, but there are others who don't receive or believe that Jesus is God. He was a created son of God. The same way Adam was a created son of God. The same way Lucifer was a created son of God. If God, what I said was, if God created Jesus to die for us, it only demonstrates that he has a limit to his love. It's not infinite. I mean, think about God the Father saying, you know, Paula, I love you a lot. I love you so much, I'm going to create my son to die for you. Excuse me.
That would be okay.
I'm create my son to die for you. But he didn't do that. He said, I'm going to die myself for you.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He became a man.
Yeah.
The second person of the Trinity. And, you know, when the Old Testament type of this was Abraham offering Isaac on Mount Moriah. And Isaac was not a little boy, as the stories picture. Isaac was a young man, anywhere from probably 17 to 25 years of age. And he starts to get the picture. We got everything we need. We got the wood. We've got the stones. We're going to build an altar. We got the rope. We've got everything. But Father, where's the lamb for a sacrifice? And the literal Hebrew in Genesis chapter 22 is Abraham says prophetically, God will provide himself a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so he's offering himself, and that's what he did with Jesus. And so the idea that God loves me more when I'm doing well or less when I'm not doing well is so foreign to that. He loved you so much. And the beauty of the How Much More chapter is that he proved it once and for all. He doesn't have anything else that he needs to do. We should never ask the question, God, if you love me, why is this happening to me? The fact that he loves you with an infinite love has already been established. It's sort of like, what did I say? I started the Bible study off with, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
God put his money where his mouth was. Yeah. And we need to rest in that completely. And you can't do it unless you're come to grips with your sin. Yeah. And realize that he has so much more for you.
Yeah, yeah. So much more. And my so much more that I love from the Lord is his forgiveness. So good. And then you went on to say, and this, I have so many highlights from that study. Here's another one. Love isn't words or feelings. You know, like you always say, I love hot fudge sundae. But I love Paula too. You know, I love a good hot dog. You know, just plain, you don't have to have anything on it. A good hot dog, I just love a hot dog. But it's a lot different than the love of God. So love isn't words or feelings, but action. And it's not meaning well. This was what I really underlined and circled. It's not meaning well, but doing well. It's not intentions. It's intentionality. Yeah. Even when the person or the people disappoint or hurt, you know. I used to love that scripture that says, heap burning coals on their head, because, you know, I'm thinking, yeah, we'll burn their scalp, be baldy.
That sounds so satisfying to our flesh, doesn't it?
And the Lord said, no, that's not it. That's practice hospitality, practice turning the other cheek, practice being like me. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Practice being like me. You know, take them out, talk to them. You buy their lunch. Yeah.
In the ancient world, they didn't have stoves or heaters, and fire was an indispensable part of the world that they lived in, just to survive. And the idea of heaping burning coals on the head, the women would carry these big pots that would help them transfer fire from one place to another. And what Jesus is saying in heaping burning coals on their head is you're giving them what they need for life. You're giving them the heat that they need. They can go home and have their own fire already started. And that's what Jesus has done for us. And the idea that, you know, we can mean well but not do well is fraudulent. But you know my heart. I didn't intend to do it. None of that matters. Jesus said, if you love me, you will obey me. And too often, Paula, we just think, well, he knows I didn't mean to. He knows my heart. And that is the opposite of coming to grips with how awful your sin really is.
Yeah, yeah. You said this too. What we do identifies who we are. And I was sharing with the ladies on Monday night, because do you truly love me more than these? And sometimes the these person is you, your wants, your desires, my desires, I should say. And so I was telling them we have got to be the ones who don't just talk the talk, but we walk the walk. And real love perseveres. We got to put ourselves down all the time. That's exactly what Jesus did. He set his face as flint to go to Jerusalem. And people were mocking him and talking bad about him, and yet he still loved them. He still loved them,
He told Pilate the truth because he loved him. He told Judas the truth because he loved him. Yeah. The idea, Paula, that I said that we're identified by what we do, the decisions that we make. Mm-hmm. We live in a world where we're content to be identified with what we say. You've been in a lot of counseling sessions with me when I've looked at people and said, "Are you guys saved? Mm-hmm. Are you guys Christians?" Mm-hmm. Well, of course we're Christians. Well, how can a Christian act this way? Yeah. Well, that's not fair. I had somebody say, you expect too much of us. Mm-hmm. It's Jesus who says, yes, if you love me, you will obey me. And we're content if somebody says they're a Christian. We want to believe the best.
I do.
But the truth is, if we allow people who are living sinful lives to think they're okay with God, then we're partakers of their sin. Yeah. And so the thing is, well, why do you think you're a Christian? Well, I got baptized. I was raised in church. Mm-hmm. I'm from Texas. We got all those silly excuses. Mm-hmm. But Jesus said, no, wait a minute. If you call me Lord, then you got to do what I tell you to do. Yeah. Are you well, nobody's perfect. And we think that's a good enough standard. Mm-hmm. Well, nobody's perfect. Well, actually, that's not true. Jesus was. And he's the one who said, aim for perfection twice, out of his mouth and out of the Apostle Paul's mouth. We're to aim for perfection. The fact that we can't get there should make us appreciate his grace all the more. Yeah. How much more?
How much more?
Yeah. So, yeah.
What a great life we get to live, right? I mean, just talking about the man who finally got it after a long time, what a great life we get to lead. Because on that day, and maybe many times while we're in heaven, it's going to be given thumbs up. I'm so glad you stayed faithful, Pastor Ron. I'm so glad you didn't change the message. Even with Cindy, she was gone from San Antonio for, I think, 10 years. Mm-hmm. And when she came back, she said, you didn't change. It's the same 5-course meal that we were getting before I left, and it's the same now. Thank you so much. Yeah, we wanted to stay in the Word, and thank you for the staff you've raised up here, too, because they are dedicated. We're going to teach God's Word and live it out best we can through the Holy Spirit.
I think one of our testimonies on Christmas Eve, one of the men said, directed it at me, and I'm not doing this, I'm not trying to draw attention to me. But,
I'm sorry.
But I think he said, Pastor Ron, thanks for not making this a fluff church or something like that, mm-hmm. where you loved us enough to tell the truth. Yeah. And it's only the truth that gets people through the difficulties. When Pilate's wife came running out to him, have nothing to do with this righteous man. Mm-hmm. I've suffered many things in a dream because of him this night. And Jesus looked at him and said, everybody on the side of truth looks at me. And he looked at him and he loved him. The rich young ruler, he looked at him and he loved him and told him, sell everything that you have and give it to the poor and follow me. Mm-hmm. And the hard things that are said, that are consistent with the Word, are said because we love you. Mm-hmm. And people get mad at us for loving them that way sometimes, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm. There's sometimes when I'm gotten in the car, Pastor Ron, and I've been a little on the silent side, if you haven't noticed, over these many years. Like, you had a question yesterday, what's the difference between teaching and preaching? And then we can go on, because this lady came to you one time and said, okay, Pastor Ron, you went from preaching to meddling, And so getting all up in our business.
And we never saw her again.
We never did see her again. Yeah. But I live at your house, and I'm a Christian, and the Lord said persevere, and so I can't leave. But there's some times when, oh man, I just get convicted. Now I got to go look at this man in the face too. Like one time, I think a couple times I came to the altar and I'm standing right there in front of you. You're looking at me like, I thought you were saved. But yeah, no, it's. I've said this for years. It's hard to come to Calvary Chapel if you're not serious about the Lord.
See, that's one of the things I love the most about you. You have the humility not to worry about your position or what people think about you.
Oh, I'm thinking about it.
Well, I mean,
Don't get me wrong.
But you're not giving into it.
Yeah, that's true.
If you need to, if the Spirit of God is convicting you of something, and you need to make that declaration publicly, you'll come forward.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of humility also leads us into the how much more.
Yeah. But that's a cool thing too. Thank you so much for that. But it's hard to come here if you're not serious. But if you aren't serious about the Lord, there's no sense in being, what you say, lukewarm. It's either 100% trying to be who Jesus wants you to be, or why even get up and come to church other than to say you were here?
Paula,
it's like going to the gym and sitting around drinking coffee and eating donuts.
Well, that worked for me, but
stop.
No, but seriously, you just. I just can't understand. I mean, I understand the psychology. I understand flesh. I understand temptation. I understand all those things. But this psychology that says, I want to see how much I can get away with and still be saved. Mm-hmm. Or I know I probably shouldn't do this, but if I do it, Jesus will love me, right? I'll still go to heaven, right? Mm-hmm. I don't understand that. I really don't. Now, again, I understand the battle between flesh and spirit. But the thing that befuddles me the most is that so few Christians are willing to fight that battle. Mm. They've already decided that we're just going to give in. Men who are struggling with pornography. I've been struggling for 10 years. Well, stop it. Win the battle. Mm-hmm. It's not that simple. Yeah, it really is. If you believe the word, 1 Corinthians 10:13, if you believe it, it really is that simple. The thing that we have to come to grips with is you don't stop it because you love it. And at that moment of temptation, you love it more than you love Jesus. And that's when people think I'm being so harsh. But it's because I love them, and I don't want them to go through the torment of the guilt and condemnation that Satan is going to pour on them. I don't want their wives to go through the mental, emotional torture of a husband who's into pornography. I don't want them finding out one day that their kids knew all about what they were doing. Yeah. I trying to. This is the better way. Why are we willing to settle for just? Well, I hope I'm saved. I think I'm saved. Instead of, I know to whom I belong. Yeah. Probably about 3 minutes left in the program. What do you want to finish with today?
Revival.
Okay.
We need it. As we're talking, we're talking about coming to church, and like in particular the pastor's discipleship class. It's a little more up close and personal class where we get to ask questions. We're asked questions. How you doing? What are you doing? And so you're preparing us by families, as you were saying last night. You're preparing us, and Calvary Chapel San Antonio is a family, and the people in that class in particular are desiring to know Jesus much more and to become much more like him so that we can turn around to the rest of the body and say, in full confidence, follow my example as I follow the example of Christ.
I hope we make it clear. Our first pastor's discipleship class of the year is this Saturday. And I hope we make it clear that by coming to the class, what you're saying to me is, I want more of Jesus. I want to dig in deeper. I want to serve him, offer my body as a living sacrifice. I feel like my role as their pastor is to give them the means to do that. And I don't want people in that class who are just kind of sitting in church, hanging out, and not making any changes in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I expect these people. I don't know. We got 70 or so people in that class.
It's growing.
Yeah, but it's 2 hours every other Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want people in that class who are content not to change. We've got that core of people that are really committed and submitted to the Lord, and that's the foundation that we build on.
Yeah.
Inside 1 minute, baby.
All right. Want to say happy birthday to your friend?
Happy birthday to Steve.
Yeah, Steve, and then our grandson Ari today too.
Yeah, they share the same birthday.
They share the same birthday. Mm-hmm.
And they're not the same age.
No, Ari's just a little bit younger. He's only 22. We don't need to tell. Steve
Happy birthday, dear friend. God bless you. Hey, thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to the Date Day edition of the Word to Stand Up for Life. I'm Pastor Ron Arbaugh from Calvary Chapel in San Antonio, Texas. And Lord willing, I'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock on AM 630 The Word. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for spending this time with Calvary Chapel's The Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh. The Word to Stand On for Life is on every weekday afternoon at 4, and Pastor Ron invites you to find out more about Calvary Chapel at calvarysa.com. The Word to Stand On for Life was sponsored by Calvary Chapel of San Antonio.